Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com, and today, well, I'm making a really round gnome with a really big nose. If you would like to make it, just boop, stick around. I am grinning ear to ear. If it sounds like it, it's true. I would love it if you hit the like button so I know you're here crafting with me. So this guy took about 25 minutes, but 10 minutes was me laughing solid the whole time. I wasn't going to share this with you, but then it just brought me so much joy, I thought I would share it. So we have a nice big body. I should have lint rolled that before sharing with you, but wanted to show you he is rock solid. I'm going to use my paint mixing plate as a template, and I'm going to use this from the Dollar Tree. It is a plush headband from the seasonal section. They've had it for a couple of years now. It's really cute. I'm using a crushed velvet for the body. Some of these things like this ribbon I didn't end up using, but I do use embroidery thread and a large needle. For weight, I'm using poly pellets, and for fill, I'm using poly fill, but you can use the inside of any pillow. I'm going to be using a orange faux fur. I end up not using the Dollar Tree booties or the felt because I end up not making shoes, but I do end up using this Dollar Tree nylon sock, but it's just a scrap for me, but they have them all the time in the sock section of the Dollar Tree. My plate was 10.5 inches, and I just used a white gel pen to mark that onto my fabric and cut it out with a rotary cutter. You can use any size for this. I would say 10 is going to be the minimum to make that hat look really good. You can go as high as 12 or 14. I used 26 inches of unknotted embroidery thread, and starting from the outside, meaning the right side of the fabric, the part you're going to see, I did a running stitch a 1/2 inch from the edge all the way around. And what this will do is we will form a little pouch that we will stuff and weight, and that will become our body. To end it, you're going to end the needle and thread on the outside again, right next to where you started, so that there's no gap when you pull them tight. For the base, I'm using a 2.5 inch ribbon spool on cardboard, and I just cut that out so that I don't have a roly-poly gnome. If you want a roly-poly gnome, skip adding the little base here. I just added it with a little bit of hot glue and plopped it right down in the center of my pouch. To add weight, though, I just measured with love a little bit of poly pellets, and I would say it's about 1/2 cup. And then I'm going to stuff a couple of times, a few handfuls of polyfill. Just as I pull this tight, I want to make sure that I stuff the body enough so that it bounces back when it's squeezed. When I have what I think is the right tension on the little thread here, I'm going to make one end much smaller than the other because I'm going to use the rest of that thread on the nose. A couple of double knots and just tuck the ends in here, or the one end in there, and then cut it off and set that thread aside. I love this body style because you can warp it into an oval or a circle, like a round shape, just by moving the polyfill around. So apparently you just throw that aside. And now we're going to move on to our headband. This is not very nice, so don't rip it off. I think you would rip right through the hat. So go ahead and cut it off, and then just trim off any of this stuff on the bottom and the tag. For the nose, I had this scrap left over. Again, it's a little tiny petty sock that they have at the Dollar Tree all of the time, but you can use pantyhose, nylons, or any other fabric. The goal is just to make an oval shape the same way we made the pouch, which is starting on the outside of the fabric and making a running stitch all the way around in the shape you want. End it the same way we did with the pouch, on the same side as you started, right next to where you started. I just tucked in some polyfill and pulled that tight to form my nose. It's a significantly sized nose. Look how cute it is. It's good because you can squish it around and, move the polyfill to what you want. So I'm going to double knot that and then secure it with a couple of knots because I'm paranoid. And then again, I'm going to keep one side very long so that I can attach that to my body. I'm going to do the really not technical way of measuring things. So I'm just going to plop all of this together, get an idea of what it's going to look like, and then just eyeball it for my beard. Watch. This is how I'm measuring today. Just like that. I'm going to be adding an inch or so on the side, so my beard ends up being 4 inches wide by 2 inches tall. And the reason is because I want that beard to fan out on the side, so I'm actually going to pull it around the nose and around our body. I used a pen to measure from the center up to my cut joint on the top, and then I just used an X-Acto knife, cutting only the fabric backing of the faux fur on one side. I flop it over, trace it with a pen, and then cut out the other side so I have this beautiful little U shape. Just rip it off. Again, you're only cutting the fabric backing, so you don't need a very long blade. I'm going to actually end up cutting a notch out of this in a second, but I have to have the idea for the nose on first. So let's move on to that. I'm going to thread my needle on that really long piece of thread and go in through the front of the fabric where my nose is going to be and out through that center hole. I'm going to end up positioning my nose the way I want it and then securing the back fabric, which is why we didn't cut that off. I'm just going to tuck that or use my needle and thread to sort of affix that to the actual body. And what this will do is allow the bumping and the squeezing and the booping without anything moving. So in order to get the nostrils, I'm going to go in through that center hole, and then I'm going to go about 1/3 of the vertical part of the nose at the bottom, and then I'm going to go back in just under where I came out. So we're going all the way through the nose with this thread so that when we pull it, there you go, it forms a little nostril. And here's where I laughed for a good 10 minutes. I'm a kid in a candy store with this. It made me laugh so hard. So we go back through, secure the thread again, and then back through the middle of our body, out through the bottom left 1/3, and then we're going to come back in right under that and pull it taut right out the center. So for those of you wanting me to do a soft sculpting gnome face tutorial, it's probably not going to happen. I don't prefer like the whole face with the eyes and the mouth and the teeth. That's really not my style. This is as close to it as I'm going to get, and I had such a good time doing this. So if you like the styles of soft sculpted dolls and gnomes, you know, I will try and find you a tutorial from somebody else. So I just secured that thread right there in the back, added a little hot glue, and snipped off the thread. So just so that you know, we have a good 10 to 12 inches left on that thread. So if you want to go a little smaller, you can. As I mentioned, I was going to be cutting a notch out of the beard because I want this to go all the way around and up under that nose. So I'm, again, just not really measuring anything. I'm just going to cut out about an inch. So I just fold it in half, eyeball the center, and then make the same shape of my beard just at the top. It's maybe a 1/2 inch down from the top. Not a big cutout at all. And we're going to cut it out the same way as we did before, making sure the pile is pointing down and using an X-Acto knife to just cut the fabric backing. And rip it off. All right, so here's my little gnome beard. Tuck it up under that nose and then wrap it around. I'm going to secure this with hot glue. If you would like to sew it on, have at it. I sew as little by hand as possible. So I'm just going to put hot glue on the underside of the beard, wipe that hot glue that just dripped off the bottom there because I wasn't paying attention, and hide it with the beard. And then I'm going to pull the sides around. You can see how that beard just splays out on the side. I love it. And the other side, we're going to fix that down as well. All right. This is all going to be hidden by the hat, so you don't have to make it look perfect, and you don't have to make them join in the back up together. Give him a little brushy brush before we move on to the next step, which is our hat. I wanted the nose free because I wanted the front of the hat not to be glued down all the way on the nose. So I'm starting a little back off of that brim and then just securing the middle bit, making sure that is in place. And then I'm going to be gluing down the back in just a second. just lift that up, just add the glue right back here. It's a nice clean back. It's nice and put together. The hat won't come off in case people want to pick it up by the hat. And so you see that little tuft of fur off to the other side. I was thinking maybe I'd give him ears, but I don't know, I just couldn't destroy the shininess of that hat. I also looked and saw if I wanted to do the little feet on the front, but I really didn't. I thought this guy was just fine without him. He made me laugh. I hope he makes you laugh too. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Tell me what you think of him. As always, thank you for being here. Please do share this out. I really do appreciate it. And subscribe for more crafty fun.